Hello guys, Wahoo here, back in a video, this time around doing the tier list of the update we gotten recently with the Shadow Hunter rework. So this is gonna be probably a super long video. I'm doing all this from scratch, and I actually wanted to start in the game, but there's actually a 5-hour downtime right now. They're all on platforms actually, so they're doing a big maintenance today. So we're just starting off at the the tier list. So we'll go over each and every single class of where they are now, because there was big changes to it. The last one I kind of skipped out a little bit because there was only a few minor changes, but people wanted a new update for the tier list, so I made one. But now we're doing a completely new one because there's a lot of changes that's been, like damage numbers, basically for all the classes, and some winners and well, a few losers as well in that one, but we'll get to that when we do. So I also keep the camera on me here, so you might see a few classes that is not there. If I just move, you can see the Boomeranger right up here. He is here, or she or he is here. We actually don't know what the gender is at the Boomeranger, but that doesn't matter. The point is that it is here, and we are gonna place it as well. So we'll do all the classes randomly. So if you're looking for specifically the Shadow Hunter, you can go down the description. There is a timestamps in there. So if you want to go along to get that one, I don't know which one I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna do them randomly, I think, and just get through all of them. So if you just want to see all of it, this is just it. So again, also I do want to say that the tier list is based on people's preferences to it, not only damage numbers, not only best boss killer, it's also about it's overall the how much people play them, how good they feel to people, how they clear dungeons, how they clear bosses, how they clear delve. Also, of course, with damage numbers are of course a factor, but it's not the only. It's not like, hey, you can just take this tier list and this is the damage number tier list. This is the overall. I could do one for each and every single category, but that would take way too long. And yeah, I don't think anybody would wanted to see a video that's only about which damage numbers are. I'm going to talk about them, of course, and the buffs and nerfs we got in the Shadow Hunter update. So yeah, enough intro. Let's jump into the very first class. Alright, so the first class we are starting with is gonna be the Boomeranger. I just said he or she is behind me right here, so might as well just start with this one here. So before we had it in the, well, it's still in the A tier. I guess that's kind of sort of a spoiler, I don't know, but it is still in the A tier. It did get a small nerf to some of the damage numbers. The minions do not do as much damage as right now, but it's a very small nerf. That's actually the only thing that happened to it, which is kind of, I wouldn't say crazy, because it's still a very top tier class for some people. So, but it didn't need it. It was never in the S tier. Like, it wasn't close to getting into the S tier. It was still around the A tier. So I'm gonna put it there again in the A tier. It didn't have enough nerf to go down. It's not like it's up, and it's because I'm putting it here doesn't mean that it's close to going into the B tier. That's not anything. It's still solid in the A tier. So basically just moved a little bit like that or something like that. If you can even see that on the video, it just went down a little bit. So it's still in the A tier, but I'm just putting it here so there's room for the other classes that we are gonna put, of course, in the A tier. So not very much to say about the Boomeranger. It's still at where it was. Like I said, it only got a very small nerf to the minion damage, and it's still very high damage, about in the thousands still. So still very nice class and very fast. And so that's where it's going to be. So the first class is not the biggest change. It's still a solid A tier class. Again, of course, it went away a little. Didn't go up to the closer to the S tier, but it went still solid in the A tier. So yeah, that was the Boomeranger. Let's move on to another class. All right, so for the next class, let's pick something that's a little more juicy. The Boomeranger didn't happen so much with the Boomeranger. Let's head into the Knight. The Knight was falling slowly but surely into the C tier. It was basically right here. It was sort of not a really B tier. It was you could argue that was a B tier in some cases, but it was not really fair to the other B tier classes that was in there. So we sort of put it right here in the C tier. This had some very, very major buffs to the damage numbers of the Knight, which is great in a way, but I don't really like just buffing its numbers, because to me the knight is, well, because of the damage number being boosted over the whole board, it is now in the B tier, somewhere in the B tier. I wouldn't put it like close to the bottom anymore or to the top. I didn't need, like, just sort of in, let's just place it exactly in the middle. The knight still needs that rework, you know, and I will talk about the reworks that are coming in later on. But yeah, the knight was, you know, buffed significantly, big buffs all over the board, every ability and stuff like that. But I don't like just doing, well, I do like that they're buffing, you know, other classes and stuff like that, but that's not really the problem with the knight. The knight's playstyle right now, and I know, of course, that Gamigo or Trove devs, they know the problems with the knight, and then they are looking, of course, into it. I don't know if it's going to be the next rework. I was actually thinking it was going to be, this rework was going to be the knight. I really thought that it was going to be the knight, the next rework. I did try to get Andrew to talk about which class he's playing at the moment, because usually that's the next rework we're getting. You know, which class he fancies right now is going to be the next we're going to see. But he was not botching on what he was playing at the moment. But yeah, B tier is now because of the damage numbers. That's only, like, it's moved from here to here because of the damage numbers. The playstyle is still the same. You still do the same thing. There's nothing changed with that. So I can't put it in the A tier. It wouldn't be, you know, close to the A tier or anything like that. If you look solidly at the damage number now, you could see maybe that it's pushing up here, but it's still the same gameplay. It's not a boss killer. It's not sort of of course, you can clear dungeons with it. You can do U10, U9, all that stuff. But there's some other classes in here that are just doing it so much better and so much more efficient. So if you are knight main, of course, go ahead. You can still have fun doing that and clear everything. But there's just other classes that do it better. And it's, like I said, it's just the gameplay style. If it gets a rework, I would, and if it's just as good as the other reworks, I would definitely put it in the A tier. But for now, we are gonna put it right in the middle of the B tier right now. So not really much more to say about the knight. You know, buffs all over the board, which is nice, but I don't want to see just buffs. You know, numbers are numbers, but I want to see more interesting gameplay. That's what I'm seeing, and we are gonna get it, but you know, that's just why I can't, you know, go up and say, hey, now it's an A tier class. But I'm pretty sure with the damage numbers and a nice rework as we got for the other ones, we are definitely gonna see the knight in the A tier quite soon as the rework comes in, of course. But yeah, that was the knight. Let's move on to the next class. All right, for the next class, let's take another winner of the update, if you can say it like that. We got the Dino Tamer. The good old Dino Tamer got buffed again, which is super crazy because it was already very good. Not super great at boss killing and such. It's definitely now very close to being in the S tier. I would put it up here. Usually, usually, that sounds weird, but the other times I put it right here in the A tier because of the farming, you know, the speed, the farming capacity that it has. And but now I am going to sort of just pop its head into the S tier at the moment because it got buffed also as well. It got fixed with some of the you know, some of the dino it can send out. I wouldn't call dino babies because that's the Draco's babies, right? Or Draco babies, I guess you can call it. But these dino helpers or got buffed as well. So they're usually not that tanky. When you were running around farming, you were just using your ultimate and stuff like that, and you still are going to do that, but now it can also help you. It's still damage, and they also take a little bit of aggro and stuff like that, so you might, you know, not have to use as many potions or not take as many hits, because you can take random hits that will proc your, you know, your death defying, right? So that's just sort of nice that they will take the hit instead. So that's just a lot, and they can take the hit. That's what I mean. Like, they won't just get instant shot anymore. In some cases, of course, they can be instant shotted if you're talking about like deep delves and all that stuff. But I'm just talking regular U10, 9 dungeon farming and such. They won't really get instant gift all the time, basically. But the point is, it's now in here because, of course, not only the buffs, but also, of course, what it has done before. Let me move it right over here so we can have room for some more. But yes, now it's poking its head, I would say, into the S tier class right now because of, again, it didn't get nerfed at all. It's still as good as it was before. It was in the A tier before, but it just got buffed. So now it's sort of, I wouldn't put it in the S tier because you are reliant very much on your ultimate and stuff, and that just require you sometimes to use the potion to get down the cooldown. So you are, it's not a solid S tier as some of the other classes, and it wouldn't again be fair to some of the S tier classes that I would just put this one in here. But it's basically just, you know, poking its head in there, and I don't think again, it doesn't need to. It could get a nerf at some point or whatever, but I say it's solid right now, so it doesn't need to move at all. But very solid and very amazing. You know, the Dino Tamer is a great class and very great farmer, a great alternative to one of the best farmers. We'll get to that one. You probably already know which one it is, but yeah, it's a very great alternative that there is these sort of competitors that are just ahead of the curve of all the other farmers. So you kind of have a choice, and they are, you know, ranged versus melee in that sense. So yeah, the Dino Tamer is up there. So yes, buffs and amazing. I won't just slowly, surely, but just putting it up there. But yeah, Dino Tamer, maybe I put it down way too down, is going to be the class here, and you know, in the almost S tier, you can say, but it's mostly A tier. But that's enough about the Dino Tamer. Let's move on to the next one. All right, let's move on to a former S tier class. Maybe that's a little bit of a spoiler before you know, but it is gonna be a former S tier class, and unfortunately, it is our good old friend, the Gunslinger. The Gunslinger used to be a, you know, it was sort of falling out of meta in compared to some of the others. I'd still put it in last time in the S tier because it still was solid, but it got nerfed. Not heavily nerfed like some other classes, or heavily buffed or anything like that, some other, but it did get nerfed. It was just a solid nerf. It basically just sort of took the last wind out of the Gunslinger, and I cannot longer put it in the S tier. I gotta put it in the A tier. It's not way down close to getting into the B tier or anything like that. It is just below the S tier, and you can also argue that it can just be above the S tier, but I gotta put it in the A tier now. The nerfs to it was just too much to keep it in the S tier. It's still a solid class, and you can still use it if that's your like your main thing, and you know how to play it and stuff like that. It can still be used. Don't get me wrong on this, but unfortunately, with the nerfs, it can't stay in the S tier. Unfortunately, the S tier is just too competitive, and there's just too much. Like, it's not a great farmer. It used to be very good to killing bosses, but the alternative for the other classes are just like, they've just been buffed so much, and yeah, and it has only seen nerfs, unfortunately. It really feels bad for the Gunslinger. You know, it used to be, you know, the bread and butter of killing things in Trove, but now it is just unfortunately falling down so far. Of course, A tier is still amazing. A tier, like top A tier, is still amazing. It's, like I said, close to, it could be argued to be on either side, but I do have to be fair, and I do also have to be a little bit objective that, you know, because Gunslinger, I love the Gunslinger in compared to some of the other ones. Maybe I'm just because I'm used to the other ones that got buffed, you know, Chloromancer, all that stuff, and Ice Age, Fae Trickster, all those things that came in over time of getting buffed and re-ramped and all that stuff. So maybe I have a soft spot for the Gunslinger. Maybe I feel a little bad that it's keep getting put further and further down, but now we actually am seeing a specific nerf. The other ones was basically just because other things got buffed and was more interesting to play, and the, you know, the Gunslinger sort of just went out of meta in a way. That's why it was still in the S tier, but not in people's mind. It wasn't S tier, but now it is, you know, both fallen out of meta and also fallen out of buffs or damage, I guess, because it got nerfed as well. Not big nerfs, but it did get nerfed again. So that's why I'm putting in the A tier. Again, if you really want, you know, for anybody, you know, if you don't tell anybody, if you know, if you are a Gunslinger main, we can pretend it's in the S tier, but unfortunately it is in the A tier. I also know there's a lot of people that switch, of course, for the Gunslinger to some of the other ones as well already, but I know it hurts somebody that has invested a lot of time into these Gunslingers and now do not have the potential to be the big damage numbers as we are used to. So yeah, unfortunately, maybe it's a bigger loser than we originally thought, but I just sort of had to put it as right there because, again, compared to farming, boss killing, all that stuff, and just generally how people would like to play the game now, how the meta is, it is in the A tier. So fortunately, yeah, it hurts my heart as well. Used to be a big Gunslinger advocate, and now it's just sort of what it is right now. But yeah, that's why the Gunslinger is in there. Let's move on to the next class. All right, next up we got a new S tier class for you guys, and it is our good old friend the Neon Ninja. Yes, the Neon Ninja is now an S tier class, and this is more specifically not on boss killing. I know S tier sort of seems to be only for boss killers and stuff like that. That's usually what people mostly think about when they think about an S tier class, but we have to keep in mind that the Neon Ninja always sort of was close to being an S tier. We're talking about these two being the rivals, farming rivals, being the fastest farmers, the best farmers, all that for dungeons and stuff. But now the the Neon Ninja has moved into the S tier because of the buffs. It got buffs also on all sort of abilities. It was not every ability, but most of the abilities, like 90% of all the abilities got buffed for all of them. And it now just is in the S tier. It is the fastest farmer you can get. Maybe you can argue around these two, but you can get amazing speeds on the Neon Ninja. And also these are sort of the rivals that I was talking about before. But Neon Ninja just got buffed way more than the Dino Tamer did. And it's just so much, in my opinion at least, so much easier to have the Neon Ninja, farm with it compared. You're not reliant on your ultimate as much. You are reliant on some energy regen and stuff like that, but when you get to a certain point, you just have so much energy regen from dragons and stuff like that. We're also talking about maybe in-game people, like top 1,000, 2,000 people, on the mastery and such. They are gonna have enough energy regen to clear all these, and all these you've probably seen people play them, they're just jumping and the world can't keep up at all because they're going so damn fast, right? So yeah, Neon Ninja is now an S tier class, but only in the way of farming because of the buffs. It of course damage numbers is also a buff to boss killing, but it still didn't, it's still the same abilities that it has, which is not very good for boss killing. It's still great, for lower tiers and stuff like that, but we're talking about higher tier delves. We're talking also about, your 10 Leviathans and stuff like that. There's just some more solid choices. So of course you can use a Neon Ninja. Of course you can use all the classes. You can even use a Knight. But the thing is, there's just classes that do it better and is just more worth your time investing into if you want to do Leviathans, for example, or you want to do deep delves and stuff like that. But the Neon Ninja is now an S tier, and in my opinion also the best farmer because it's more simple to go that speeds with instead of the Dino Tamer. But it's very comes down to opinion, how you feel, and if you want to be ranged or you want to be melee, or just if you like the jumps, or however, it's really a preference. So that's also why the Dino Tamer sort of pokes its head up in that one. But yeah, Neon Ninja, that's the one we're talking about, and it is now in the S tier, so very amazing. Welcome, Neon Ninja, finally you're in the S tier, as also a melee class being in the S tier, and that's all the buffs it got. So more specifically on the playstyle, on the damage numbers and the farming capabilities, not so much on the boss killing, but that doesn't make it less of an S tier class, that is. So yeah, good old friend Neon Ninja, welcome to the S tier, and let's move on to the next class. Alright, I think it's time for us to do a few classes that didn't really happen much to, but we are going to do them one by one. And the first one we are going to talk about is the Bard. And the Bard nothing happened to it. Nothing happened to it at all, other than there was a little fix to these things. It might be a big fix. I do not sure if it is or not. Maybe the board mains can, you know, comment down below if it was a big change or what, but I haven't heard anything. It didn't get changed to any of the damage numbers. It's also the newest class, so it would be silly to kind of tamper with that. That'll probably be like next year, maybe either buffing it or nerfing it. Probably a buff would be what I would say, but only what happened was that it, you know, got that sweet fix that it got probably. But so it's still in the A tier, so there's not really much to talk. It's still a solid farmer, but Dino Tamer and Ninja, as we have talked about just before this, is just left it in the dust, basically. They just left it alone. They were sort of in the same almost category, right? They were sort of one of the fortes for the bot is, of course, its range. You know, it has potentially different amazing capabilities of healing, damage, and also speed and stuff like that. It can utilize all these things, but it is just in the A tier. I'm putting it close to the border, but that doesn't mean that it's not sort of in the middle, but I do have to have room for it, and I can't put it underneath, you can't see it. So putting it right here doesn't mean that it's close to the border, just saying it's still just where it is compared to the other ones as well. You know, it sort of didn't lose anything. Either the other ones did get buffs, but it doesn't mean that this should be falling down at any point. So if you're a board main, you're just in the same spot. So, you know, that's cool. You know, status quo is not that bad. So yeah, but so not much to talk about on the Bard. So just wanna, you know, I didn't want to talk about it, of course, and just show you guys, and then it was like suddenly there was just a Bard in there. It's like, what happened? So yeah, let's put that one in there and we can move on to another class. All right, so the next class we are going to talk about is the Vanguardian. Actually, the Vanguardian sort of, to me, didn't need any sort of buff, but it did get buffed, not significantly, but there was a few smaller buffs to the damage numbers and stuff like that. It's a very solid class. So I do want to put it in here, not in the B tier. It was in the B tier before because it sort of is melee. Most people play it as melee, right? That's what we're talking about. It can be ranged as well, but that doesn't really work that well in compared to the melee. So most people play it at melee and do use the laser eyes, right, to instant kill things. Because of the damage numbers buffs, it has moved up through the B tier and is sort of also poking its head, as we talked about the you know, the Dino Tamer. It still has, you know, abilities hasn't changed, so I can't just put it solidly in the A tier because that would not be fair, because it's just buffs on damage numbers, and of course that does something for a class, but I can't just go ahead and just put it in the A tier and just go like that and say, hey, now it's in A tier, right? I do have to be fair towards the other classes, to other people and such then. So it is solidly getting closer to the A tier. I don't think it needs a rework at all. Maybe the damage numbers just had to go up a little bit, but a little bit more, I mean, and yeah, so that's why it could be like just sort of hovering up and down. I guess it's just soaring through the A or the B tier, but for sure it is still a very solid class. It is not below the Knight at any point. Like this is a way longer gap between these two. Even though the Knight got buffed way more than the Vanguardian did, it's still a big gap through these two because it just has more better and fun mechanics. If it had this sort of the similar mechanics to the Knight, they would probably be side by side, but it does have more fun and more interactive, better abilities that it does, so it is definitely right there. So again, it could be argued to be closer to the A tier than I'm putting it, but I don't want to push things too high on the list just for no reason at all, and I don't think that it's fair that I just, you know, bump it up to an A tier yet. But we'll see, maybe damage numbers will go up even more. It's also something to do with popularity, and it's also something to do with how much people use it for farming and for again, for boss killing, delving, all that stuff, right? So that's why it's right here. You know, maybe based solely on the damage numbers, it could go sort of just a little bit higher, but let's just make sure that we are putting it right here. But with that said, let's move into one of the winners, or no winner, I guess I can say it, of the classes that was in the Shadow update. So here is the next class. All right, so the next winner, as I maybe want to put it, the next class that really won, and I was very surprised I was gonna get these significant buffs, because it's mostly because the not the damage numbers on it. The damage numbers, of course, needed, but the gameplay is way better, and it's our good old friend, the Boomer, and the Boomer is now an A tier class. It hovered around here because of being melee and stuff like that, and damage numbers not really being there, but now it is an A tier class, not top, like it's not like pushing all these or close to some of these classes that are here in that, but it is a solid and not on its way down in B tier. Again, it is a solid A tier class because of all the buffs. There is also damage numbers that got like buffed on all the all the abilities, like the Knight basically did. It's just that this has more interesting and better, in my opinion, better farming, and also just more fun, interactive, crazy, amazing buffs. And it can also be ranged if you want to do so, which if you want to go that. And there was actually also a sort of a I was gonna say a hidden buff, but that's only because it's a hidden effect. If you do go ranged with it and you have one of the hidden effects, of course that's something you have to polish that ring every time and get it, get that hidden effect and then polish your ring. But there is an AoE on your your ranged attack now. I thought that was gonna be the class gem. I was so excited because I thought that was gonna make the Boomer even more fun. If it was like a class gem, it would 100% have put it up here, like close to the S tier, being ranged. I worked very hard to get myself a bow, because I was actually gonna go bow on my Boomer. I'm still melee now because it was instead of not being a class gem, of course it was a hidden effect on the rings, so that's why it's unfortunately sorry Boomer, but you didn't make it really. But so that's why it's also in here, because you can take 100% get that as well if you want to, and that makes it like AoE on impact and stuff like that, which just makes it amazing. I tried it on the PTS server, it was great back then. It's still great, it's nothing, but it's just I thought it was going to be a permanent thing, but it's just one you have to polish every 7 to 10 days, however you have it. So it's not impossible, it's not hard to come by that hidden effect, but it's just it's something not 100%. If it was like 100% all the time, like I said, it is up here, but it is a solid A tier now. So welcome to the Boomer in the A tier. You were hovering around here. It was sort of like the Vanguardian before, but now you are definitely in. So big winner on the Boomer. So very amazing that we got that up here now. It's solid there. The classes that are hovering between tiers, that's not awesome for them. You sort of want to be either one or the other, right? But yeah, the Boomer is definitely one in there. So big winner and amazing. Hopefully we can see some more cool stuff happening with that one. Not that it super needs a rework compared to some of the other ones, but it could be cool to see what they wanted to do. Andrew does amazing reworks. The two he's done is absolutely amazing. And I think we're gonna do one rework next. So let's jump into that one. All right, next up we got, as you probably guessed, the Shadow Hunter. Maybe also the reason why you clicked this video, or also why you clicked the timestamp to jump here. Welcome if you jumped this far. Of course, we are talking about the Shadow Hunter. The Shadow Hunter that got reworked recently, that's why we're doing all these. And it got buffed incredibly on the PTS server, and slowly over a few patches got nerfed, of course, because it was super overpowered on the PTS servers, like really crazy damage numbers, and they landed on a very, very nice spot. So you're probably wondering where it's going to end up, and I'll put it there because you guys want to know where it is. And then yes, I didn't just mistakenly click it and then shoot it all the way up here, because it actually used to be a B tier because of clear speed, all that meta, all those boss killing stuff. It is now in S tier. It's not the biggest S tier class, don't get me wrong. I will talk about some other ones as well, but it is now solidly in the S tier, not only because of the damage numbers, but just the whole rework has done so much great things. It was already pretty good. It was just sort of lacking a few things. It was just sort of also, maybe I was a little hard on it putting in the B tier. Maybe I was a little angry that, it wasn't as fun to play anymore. Maybe that's on me, but it is now very, very, very much in the it's S tier. I was about to say A tier. I mean, of course, S tier. It is in the 100% in the S tier because of the damage numbers, because of the new abilities that it had. The Seekers as amazing. You know, when you, it's just a small thing, right? We let me just explain that, because we have these shadow marks. We had shadow marks before, but it worked. You know, you gain basically the shadow marks. I'm actually not sure how they really worked. We never used them before, but these shadow marks was really insignificant before, but now they are so great. They, first of all, when you defeat something with a shadow mark on it, it does an explosion, which is great for farming. That was also something we were missing for the Shadow Hunter, but we needed, you know, some more AoE. But when you're killing bosses, and how they, you know, Andrew reworked it, is that these Sun Seekers that you're getting, because if you are hitting a boss, you know, that's not, you know, defeating it. And before, you know, you had to defeat something for the shadow mark to do something and stuff like that. Now that it applies the shadow mark, and it does that of course automatically, but you can also do it of course with a few abilities like the bomb, your trap thing and such can also apply it, but it's gonna apply pretty quickly. What it does when you hit a boss, it's gonna apply, of course, the you know, the Shadow Hunter mark after a little bit, and then as much as you are hitting it, that is gonna give you stacks of the Seekers, and you get up to 5 Seekers, and then you can shoot those off, and they automatically, you know, seek out the boss and do extra damage. So you basically just hold in your left button, it would be your shoot button for if you're on PC or in consoles, you know, just that, and then hit the other button when you get yourself 5 stacks, because they're just gonna stack up randomly. I think they have like a 20% chance to give you one of these, but you shoot so fast, you get them incredibly fast, and it's just very fun and more engaging towards this class. So just a small thing that just happened. It has piercing shots, it basically has everything. This rework is another home run. We talked about on the Lunar Lancer. That was a great rework as well. Of course, didn't do crazy much for the class per se, and you shouldn't compare the two reworks to each other. Like the Shadow Hunter rework was better than the Lunar Lancer. It's just that, you know, if you have the, you know, the Shadow Hunter was above, you know, the Lunar Lancer, you know, being the Lunar Lancer down here, and that got, you know, moved up. Like they just sort of just followed each other up, both of them. So it doesn't make the one rework better. They were actually very good, both of them. It was just sort of what the class itself is. This is a range class. Range classes are always going to be top compared to some of the melee classes. Of course, there's all, of course, Shadow Hunter not Shadow Hunter, Near Ninja being a different sort of aspect why it's in the S tier, right? But yeah, very solid. So I'm very much looking forward to what he's gonna do with the next class. I think it's great. He knows how to keep the essence of the class, which is really that identity. I talk about a lot about the identity of the class. We have to keep the identity, so a Shadow Hunter feels like the Shadow Hunter and not like all the other classes, because if all classes, you know, feel the same in gameplay, we might as well just only have one class. There's not need to have 17 or wherever we have, right? It's just that great. So yeah, just wanted to mention that, and that's why the Shadow Hunter, it's a great rework. I was a great I guess it sort of isn't already made, I guess, but it is a great rework, and same with the Lunar Lancer. So like I said, I'm very excited. But yes, solid S tier now. It's actually also used in Delve now. It didn't used to be used in Delve, but now it's actually in the core team as a class you can use in the high level. I'm talking about the deep delves or the high level delves. I don't know how you want to put it, but you know, the ones that people you know, compete on the purple name for. So yeah, solid class on, of course, max light and all that stuff. But yeah, yes, Shadow Hunter is and very much solid S tier class. So yeah, I hope you liked that, you Shadow Hunter mains out there, that I put it in the S tier. I'm personally liking it, loving it, and I can't wait again, like I said, for the next rework. But we got more classes to do. There's more you know, classes hanging out here that want to get into the different tiers. So let's move on to the next class. All right, next up, let's take the other rework that we were talking about before, the Lunar Lancer. I'm gonna make this pretty short because it is in the A tier. It hasn't changed. There was no nerfs or buffs to it. We also sort of made, you know, it feels weird to nerf or buff a class that you just sort of rework, but that's probably something you're just probably yelling at the screen, Chloromancer. We'll get to that. I'll take that next. Let's just let's just agree on that. But let's talk about the Lunar Lancer first. Nothing happened, you know, no nerf, no buffs, no fix, no nothing. It's just still in the A tier, so I'm not gonna talk too much about it because again, it didn't have any buffs, any nerfs, which is great. I think it's solid. It should be there in the A tier. So definitely putting it right here is for sure really great. So still, Lunar Lancer mains out there, you are safe for now, I guess. But I don't think we're gonna see any nerfs or buffs to the Lunar Lancer for a very, very long time. You know, it's still not super meta. It didn't change how much people play it. You know, people that played it before probably, you know, it could have brought in a few people, maybe if discouraged a few people, who knows, but I don't see a lot of them out there. Of course, it's also now every hype is around the Shadowhunter, right? So, but Lunar Lancer solid again, still A tier. I can't put it in the, you know, B tier or the S tier because, you know, didn't have any nerfs or buffs and nothing really happened to it. So it still has to be in the A tier. Can't really just push it out for no reason. Even other things getting like major buffs or, you know, major nerfs or stuff like that. So yeah, I'd say the Chloromancer. Let's start get started on that one. So yeah, we are here now with the Chloromancer, as I just promised, with the Lunar Lancer. So good old Chloromancer, there it is. And yes, it was, and I kind of sort of also spoil it right now, it was in the S tier. It is now not in the C tier. That would be crazy. Just put it all the way down there. So it's like, yeah, it's just gone. It's just out. I could make a joke that it was, but that's mostly just for joke purposes and sort of because it is the biggest loser of this whole thing. I do not know what Andrew has against the Chloromancer or Chloromancer mains, but my heart goes out to you guys. I don't think he hates you, but he definitely did not like that it was on the, you know, there. It didn't even get one nerf, it got two major nerfs. Like it was like back-to-back nerfs on this one. I still gonna put it in the A tier. You know, damage numbers are not completely shot to hell. I sort of don't want to put it over, so I'm just gonna put it right here so it doesn't step. Maybe I'll put it over here. Then that's great. It just stands on the A instead. Now it's the king of A tier. It's still a solid class, you can still use it, but the nerfs was just so significant that I cannot have it in the S tier compared to some of the other ones. Some of the other ones, we'll talk about them as well. You can see there's a few classes that's still over here. But yes, we cannot unfortunately have the Chloromancer. The back-to-back major nerfs to it could just not hold it in the S tier anymore. It was also the best in the S tier. It was like exploding up here, right? Damage numbers and all that stuff, but yeah, it didn't last as long as I would like it to be. You know, for some of the first ones we were down here. Some of the first you know, tier list that I did, the Chloromancer was down there, and that was not even a joke. It was down there, right? And it got reworked, it got, you know, buffs like crazy and stuff like that, and we were so happy for all the Chloromancer, and everybody was, but I'm not sure I'll 100% agree on the back-to-back nerfs. I would have seen one nerf maybe. Maybe was just not enough, but I would have loved to see it still around here, you know, still being not the best, but just sort of solid in there. But right now we unfortunately has to put it down here. I can't, with those nerfs, justify that it's in the S tier. And it wouldn't be fair to the S tier class. It wouldn't be fair to the Shadowhunter that just got up there, right? It's like, oh, you still here? And it's like, yeah, I got two nerfs and you got super buffed and we're still the same. Yeah, you know? So yeah, I'm putting it in the A tier. It can still be used if you put all your marbles, all your stuff into the Chloromancer. You can still use it to kill Leviathans and stuff like that. It still can kill them, just not as good. It's not like a open shut case where you say it like that. You know, it's not a go-to anymore. It really shook up the meta for sure for all of these. But yeah, I got some solid choices for you though. We do already have the Shadow Hunter up there, right, as you can see, but if you're just following the whole video, I do got yourselves, because you see there's some other classes over here. One of the classes that, you know, use maybe is still in the S tier and stuff like that, but we will see that when we get to that. But yeah, the Chloromancer is right here in the A tier, so unfortunately, rest in peace, Chloromancer. We will see you once again in the C tier. No, we'll probably just stick around in the A tier. I think it's still pretty solid. But anyways, let's move on to another class. So after that funeral, if you're watching, you know, we just talked about the Chloromancer. Let's have some more upbeat and talk about a new S tier class again. Now you say S tier class, what are we talking about? Are we talking finally about the Draco? Is the Draco finally going to be S tier? Unfortunately, that's not the class we're talking about. You probably saw it already. It is the Fae Trickster. Yes, the Fae Trickster is now an S tier class. Not above, it kind of seems like I put it sort of above but it's not always that. Maybe I'll just move the Shadow Hunter a little bit and then move this one a little bit. It is just above the S tier now. It only got buffs for, you know, for this patch or for this update, for this shadow update here. It only got buffs and it wasn't a bad class before. It does happen to be, why it's close to the A tier still is because, you know, if you don't have your extra buff ring thing, your bubble thing, you can lose it, you know, and then you do less significant damage, right? But if you're pretty skilled at the game, and also if you're killing Leviathans, there's a small chance of you not, you know, losing it. It's not a delve class. It's not that. It's still very great at farming again, right? But it's basically the boss killing aspect that puts it in the S tier. It's just like I said, just above. It is an S tier class. I don't want to put it like in between here because that's really not what it deserves. It definitely deserves to be in the S tier now, just for the sheer damage numbers, because of how super simple it also is. Also a little bit about the hidden effect. A little hidden effect can also do a little bit, because if you have the hidden effect, you can basically take your 3 staffs you can do with your ultimate and make it to one bigger staff that first of all do more damage and also follows you, and that's really great for farming as well. I know it's not up all the time, but and also you need to get it through a hidden effect, but it is just amazing. I loved it on the PTS server again, like I talked about the which one I was talking about on the PTS server that I really liked. Doesn't matter. The point is, I really liked it on the PTS server, and I really wanted it to be a class gem and a permanent thing that you could choose to get if you got that class gem to use it, for example, right? So you can maybe hear in my voice that I really wanted some new class gems out there. Andrew, you sneaky man, you thought you got me thinking that it was a class gem, but it wasn't. It was the rings. So if you use that, it's really great for farming dungeons and stuff like that, because it follows you. It doesn't, so it actually doesn't just you know, place them down and then they're gone forever. Before, if you can still just go for it, right? But right now, if you want to, you know, farm with the Fae Trickster, you really want to have that hidden effect, because they can follow you and go with you and actually provide you as a sort of a little minion or something like that does amazing damage. And of course it also works on bosses, you know, it's not like that, and then of course it moves and stuff like that. But if you're killing a boss, you don't really have to move, but they could sort of become out of range if, you know, the boss moves and stuff like that. And if you have it as the big, you know, big ultimate, it of course will follow you, and then it'll be in range and stuff like that. So they're also sort of a little bit of a utility. But welcome Fae Trickster into the S tier. Thank you so much for the buffs, I want to say, from the Fae Trickster, I guess. But anyways, the Fae Trickster, because of what happened, it is now in the S tier, but it's mostly because of the damage numbers. So yeah, enough with the Fae Trickster. Welcome to it in the S tier, and let's move on to another class. All right, next up we got the Revenant. Yes, the Revenant is right here. It's still in the A tier. It was in the A tier before. It's not completely into the S tier, even though it did get buffed. it's not enough to put it in the S tier, just because of the slow and everything and so on. But it's mostly actually for its utility and stuff like that. But it is part of the Delve team. We talked about the Shadowhunter also being part of that. Sort of also the Chloromancer. Chloromancer is still part of the team as well. But I'll talk about like the whole team when we get to, of course, the end. But yeah, I'll re-mention that if you haven't seen it, so people can go there. I'll make the timestamp saying that this is the Delve team that people are running with. But the Revenant is part of this, Delve team as well. I can't put it in the S tier because there's also factors of farming and stuff like that. It's just not solid enough to go, up here to being that, even though being on the Delve team. And I mean, of course, Delve team, I mean the classes that people use mostly for doing a high tier and deep delves and all that stuff. All that. Trying to get that purple name right, but yes, it is in the A tier. Yeah, so not really much. Like I said, a small buff to it. It was already in the A tier, close to the S tier now. I think it needed like, let's say 20-30% more damage overall to go into the S tier, just based on the damage numbers. So we're just around A tier right now, but still only got stronger, which it sort of didn't need, but it is, and that's amazing, because it is a great class and surely very strong for those Delve teams. So not too much more talk about the Revenant. Again, we got four classes we need to get through. So let's just jump on to the next one. Next up, we got ourselves the last team member. You can say it, the last team member of the Delve team. So the Delve team is part of 4. Again, I will mention this at the end if you haven't seen the other ones, because maybe people skip ahead to it and just set to the end. I do want to mention that we got the Delve team. That's the Chloromancer, still not actually being not number 1, but sort of being number 2, 3 on that list, and then the Revenant being number 4, and then we got Shadowhunter and the Ice Age. Yes, the Ice Age is back in the S tier. It didn't really leave. It got first of all, it got a small, well, not small, but a buff, right? And then it got a nerf, which is really crazy. It got a buff on its abilities, but then it got a nerf on its outer attack. So it sort of just stayed where it is. I was so surprised if you saw the PTS server videos that I did when I talked about the nerfs and the buffs, when we got to that on the patch notes. I was so surprised that an S tier class only got buffed, right? Basically, we have seen kind of sort of, a switch up between all these, right? We had some other ones in the meta, right? There was, we had the Gunslinger was up there. We had the Chloromancer. Those were the 3 classes we had up here. So I was so surprised. I thought we were going to see a major nerf as well as we saw the Chloromancer to the Ice Age. But the Ice Age survived the first time, and I was so surprised. And I was like, a class that is this good, both for speed, it's not as good as these two, but it has people sort of use it a little bit for speed, but also for its utility, for its damage numbers, all that stuff, got another buff on that one. I was like, wow, this is crazy. You're basically just RAP, rip the Chloromancer, but you're not hitting the Ice Age. And then it actually happened that it got a small nerf, to the auto attack, as I said before. But yes, you do use the auto attack, but being where it is already with the buff, that really didn't cancel anything out. And the nerf was also very small. It was a very small, nerf to it. The damage numbers on the auto attack, sure, it has some significance over a long period of time, but it cannot be budged out of the S tier. And for me, it is still the number 1. The Ice Age sort of seems like a girl, so I'm gonna say Queen. There's definitely the Queen is still up there and is very much the solid choice for delving and for boss killing and such. It's not, we also consider farming and all that stuff in there, but it does that pretty solid as well. There's no change to that either. Yes, again, a little hit, but nothing that is worrying at all. And I was again so surprised that it got buffed, and I was like, This is absolutely crazy what they are doing, but great that it didn't get, you know, thrown out. You know, it did mix up the meta, but I think it's great that we didn't mix everything up. You know, sure, we got a nerf to that and nerfed these two are down here now and these two up here, but we did get one that was just solid and stayed where it is. So yes, Ice Age is still the queen of everything damage-wise. So with that said, we can move on to one of the three last classes. All right, next up we got the Candy Barb. Candy Barb is, or was in the bait tier and is still in the bait tier, but it did get a bigger buff than most of them. Most of the mini classes got the most of the winners. It was a bigger buff to all the numbers, and it's not that I won't put it in the A tier because I don't have room, because I don't have actually. It's just not still. It just, you know, it is. You know, the abilities are still what the abilities are. You know, nothing really new with that. But it's not solely based on that at all. It's also, of course, the playstyle, but it is also being a melee class, you know, and of course that's never going to change with the Candy Barb. But it did get buffs, not bigger like buffs like the you know, Knight did, but it did get buffs, so that's why it was solidly in the B tier, but it moved closer to the A tier. But I can't just put it in the A tier either because of some of the also popularity, and it's still amazing that it got this buff, because this is the, you know, the best starting class out there for you. This is the Candy Barb is the absolutely best choice, and with these buffs it just makes it even better. It's just super great class to start out with, but there's just things that do it better. There was the hidden effect, you know, on rings where, you know, sort of took away the slowness you got when you did the spin and stuff, or gave you movement speed. I can't remember, but it did something for that. But and sword, that also has sort of some impact. I've kind of sort of talked about it in some of the other ones, but I can't be fair and put it in the completely in the A tier. You could move it up maybe a little bit here, but I can't be. I have to be fair here. I have to be you know, taking everything in consideration, and unfortunately the Candy Barb just isn't A tier completely. It's sort of just peeking in, as we talked about maybe as well for the Dino Tamer, just peeking its head in and seeing all the glory, I guess, of the A tier. But yes, this is where unfortunately the Candy Barb is at it right now. Maybe we'll see a rework to it at some point. Not that I think it needs it, but maybe that will, if we see some significance to the S tier as well, then yeah, it sort of could be in there as well. But this is where the Candy Barb is at the moment. But yeah, it was solidly in the B tier, so it has moved up but solely only on the damage numbers. So of course I have to be fair to the Candy Barb as well and move it up, but I cannot be you know, do it to it where it has to come into the actual A tier. But 2 classes left. Let's move on to the next one. All right, 2 classes left, and we are going to do the Pirate Captain. Good old Pirate Captain. Arr, Captain. It was A tier before, and it is still an A tier class. It is still an A tier class. It did get a buff to some of the damage, but it's still, it could be an S tier class. It for sure could be an S tier class, but just the sheer gameplay of it cannot make it an S tier class. You know, farming, it does great damage, don't get me wrong. That's why it could be an S tier class. It doesn't need more buffs. It just needs different gameplay, but you can't do different gameplay for it because it would lose the identity. So unfortunately, being the Pirate Captain, it just can't move up, because, you know, when you are killing bosses and stuff like that, you know, it takes a while before your turrets sort of, you know, becomes the maximum damage they can do. And if the boss moves out of the range, you know, you can't really move them. Maybe that would be a rework for it, where you can just replace them, or just have them, you know, those parrots just lift up the cannons and run over to you and just follow you instead. The hidden effect that it has do more damage, you know, with you know, you get it, that little bigger pirate that shoots you know, the ones that also do a little bit more damage. But it's just solely because of the gameplay that it's in the S tier. It has potential, you know, damage number wise to be in the S tier, not like taking over from the, you know, the Ice Age and stuff, but it's just sheerly on the gameplay, and it's not only for boss killing, it's also for delving. But if the boss doesn't move, it does great damage, don't get me wrong, but sometimes bosses do move, especially if you're more people, if you just but then you can't go as deep on the delves as you could of that, and you can't kill Leviathans either. Doesn't have good enough damage for that, and just for farming, you know, you do have to put the turrets down, and it takes a while for them to sort of shoot up and stuff like that. They did also try to fix it a little bit with another hidden effect and stuff like that, but yeah, it's still solid A tier. Of course, it moved up a little bit, but again, as I talked about the candy bar, maybe I can also maybe put it just a little bit. Maybe it's also peeking into the S tier for sure, but maybe that's not fair to the Dino Tamer, so maybe we should just move it down a little bit. Maybe it just has the pistol inside and kind of threatening the others and saying, I'm coming, guys. Don't worry, I'm coming. But yeah, the Pirate Captain is in there as well, but with that said, we are almost done with all the classes. I didn't realize that I'm sort of made a heart here. But yeah, let's move on to the very class, which is of course also my favorite and still my main. And that of course is the Dracolyte. So see you right in 1 second when we are gonna do that one. Alright, so our final class is of course the Dracolyte, my favorite class and still my main, even though the Shadow Hunter is coming pretty close. I would say that it's just 0.1% of being my main and taking over for the Dracolyte, even though the Dracolyte actually got buffed. I'm also sort of surprised about that. I didn't think it needed a nerf. I do not think that the Dracolyte needed a nerf at all, because the damage numbers are just not right there, but it did get buffed some on the AoE and stuff like that. It's just very amazing that it is buffed. So I am going to be a little bit biased right here and sort of put it right. Not a S tier class, but it's way higher. Well, I wouldn't say way higher, but it's more into the S tier than the Dino Tamer. You know, that's just peeking in the head. This basically has half its body inside. What the Dracolyte is missing and why it's not an S tier is the range. You know, it doesn't have the long range as the other classes up here, but if it had, it would be one of the boys up here. But sheer damage numbers, survivability, farming speed, all these things do make it into here, and it's just a way solid class in all aspects, and that's why it's my main. I can't praise enough the Dracolyte, and also it goes almost exactly in the middle of the heart that I made. But yeah, you can see how close all the classes are. I can show you guys a picture right over here where I'm showing you guys what the tier list looked before. You can see there's a lot bigger spread on it, but they did solid, they did a great job of buffing the right classes, except for the Chloromancer. I'm not sure that I totally agree on that, but I've talked about on the Chloromancer point basically. So yeah, Dracolyte very much here, just only got buffs. It was a great class before, now it's just even greater. Only downside is its range compared to some of the other ones. So, but before we head out, we did all the the classes, but I would like to do an outro, but also talk really quickly about the Delve team. Alright, so the Delve team, as I talked about before, I actually sort of talked about it a few times through the whole video, but if you're just skipping to the end right here, this is the outro. Thank you so much for watching this long video, but we all have 17 classes we gotta get through, so, and I do have to talk a little bit about them, so, 4 minutes here, 4 minutes there for each class, just altogether it's gonna take a while. That's also why I made the timestamp, so you guys can go ahead and click whatever you want, or just skip to the head to the end to get them all here done. But I did want to, like I said, talk about a little bit about the Delve team, which of course is, as you can probably see through this, is the Ice Age as the number one. Number one is the Ice Age, and you can say that the Chloromancer and the Shadow Hunter, because the Chloromancer is not out of it. Even the two big nerfs they got, it's not out of the team. Didn't get booted, it didn't get thrown out of the Avengers. It's still in there for sure. So, but in my opinion, I would say a Shadow Hunter is number 2 now, and then the Chloromancer is number 3. But depending on how, I wouldn't say how good you are playing the Shadow Hunter, because it's pretty straightforward. But if you're really good at playing the Chloromancer, if you can get it down and stuff like that, I think the Shadow Hunter just beats the Chloromancer because it's more simple, where the Chloromancer, it's not super complicated, but compared these two, you know, the Shadow Hunter is just auto-attacking and shooting your Seekers out all the time. And this is sort of the same, but you're kind of reliant also on your ultimate in a way and stuff like that. And of course the Shadow Hunter's ultimate does great damage now and can be used as well, but you're not so much reliant on it. You don't have to be so technical with it, that's what I mean. So, and also the damage numbers are a little bit significant, well, slightly worse than the Shadow Hunter is. That's why there's number 1, 2, and number 3. And then the 4th class that people use is the Revenant. That's the best class for like utility, gathering monsters and stuff like that, and also has solid numbers as a physical damage character and a melee class, of course, as well. But it's nice to see that we got a physical damage range character in the team now, and instead of just having these all magic damage. Of course, it was the Gunslinger before. The Revenant has always been in there, and now it's like solidly in there, right? You could use a few of the others, but this is just dominant now. So yeah, that's the Delve team. That's the Ice Age Chloromancer, Shadow Hunter, and the Revenant. That is the go-to team to do the Delves, if you were wondering. So yeah, very long video, I know, but there was a lot of things to talk about, and it took a while to make this one. So would you do me a solid and please like the video? That would help me out very much, and super much appreciate all the love that I get on these videos, these tier lists. That's why I keep doing them, because people are so excited when I do these, and there's just, I love to spread some happiness, and I see people being happy me making these tier lists, and I just so grateful for all you guys' support. It really means the world to me. It's not something I just say, it's like, oh yeah, thank you for all the likes. I really mean that. It only takes a second to like a video, but it means the world to me when I see people, you know, enjoying what I've spent a lot of time and effort, not only making the video, but also sort of in a certain degree also editing it, but mostly also finding all the information, keeping up with the game and stuff like that. And I love to bring you guys this information, because I know it is, you know, bringing people joy. And you guys are grateful for it, because I am super grateful for each and every single person that has ever did anything to support me on the YouTube channel, on the Twitch channel, or on Discord. You guys mean absolutely everything to me, and I'm so happy to keep going, and we're just gonna keep going. I love doing this, so we're just gonna keep going. And I have dragged this also on for very much too long. So all I want to say is thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!